It's a Sunday morning. You're 51 years old, sitting at your kitchen table with a coffee and a spreadsheet open. You're doing the math for your retirement, and the number staring back at you is completely off track. This chart lays out the stark reality. On the right is the $1.7 million target Canadians now need to comfortably retire. On the left is the median savings for a third of people in their late 40s and 50s, less than 50 grand. If you were born between 1965 and 1980, you are living through a silent, terrifying financial crisis. From the suburbs of Calgary to downtown Toronto and Vancouver, an entire demographic is quietly panicking about a future they cannot afford. The generation before you had a very clear deal with the corporate world. You worked hard for 30 years, and at age 65, your company handed you a defined benefit pension, a guaranteed monthly check for the rest of your life. But right as Gen X entered the workforce in the late 80s and 90s, that contract was quietly shredded. Companies began replacing guaranteed pensions with defined contribution plans. Instead of a guaranteed lifelong income, you were handed an RRSP and told to invest it yourself. The massive financial risk of surviving old age was entirely transferred from the employer directly onto you. And because those savings were tied directly to the stock market, your retirement accounts had to survive 8 distinct economic recessions over your working life, repeatedly wiping out years of hard-earned growth. You are not behind because you failed to plan or didn't work hard enough. You are behind because the system changed the rules of retirement exactly when it was your turn to play. Under normal circumstances, you might be able to aggressively save your way out of that deficit. But 3.8 million Canadian households are currently trapped in what researchers call the sandwich squeeze. Pushing down from above are your adult children. High university tuition and exorbitant rent mean a massive number of 20-somethings have moved back home, relying heavily on the bank of mom and dad just to stay afloat. Pushing up from below are your aging parents. As Canada's healthcare system stretches beyond its capacity, the incredibly high cost of physical and medical elder care is defaulting back onto the family. You are bearing the emotional toll of caring for 2 entirely different generations at once, while quietly absorbing the massive financial drain of supporting them both. That dual-directional bleeding makes it mathematically impossible to generate the monthly disposable income required to fund a modern, self-directed retirement plan. And whatever thin margin you might have had left over is now being consumed by the rising cost of basic survival. Over half of Canadian workers cite the daily cost of food and utilities as the main factor destroying their ability to save. Every aggressive mortgage rate hike or jump in the hydro bill represents dollars that were supposed to be compounding in a tax-free savings account, but instead went directly toward keeping the lights on. On paper, you might look wealthy. If you bought real estate 20 years ago, you are sitting on $500,000 in equity. But equity locked in bricks cannot be traded at the checkout counter. Being house rich and cash poor means you have a massive net worth, yet you still have to put your weekly groceries and essential prescriptions on a credit card. That is exactly why 59% of unretired Canadians across the board have looked at their bank accounts and concluded they will simply work until they drop. You have navigated the sandwich squeeze, survived a gauntlet of economic recessions, and endured soaring inflation to build serious housing wealth, leaving you with a high-value asset but absolutely zero liquid cash flow for your golden years. But this generation survived dial-up airnet and the 2008 financial crash through pure grit. You can navigate this crisis too. The first step is to stop performing fine at family dinners and start attacking the math. Action item number 1 is logging into your CRA My account to check your carry-forward RRSP room. Many people do not realize that the contribution space you couldn't afford to use in previous years is still waiting for you. This flowchart illustrates exactly how powerful that backlog can be. By dumping whatever liquid cash you do have into that unused RRSP space, you trigger a massive immediate tax return. You then take that exact refund and loop it directly back into your investments. Which brings us to action item 2. That refund should go straight into a tax-free savings account. As you near retirement age, the TFSA becomes an absolute weapon. It shields your money from being taxed upon withdrawal and keeps your visible income low enough to avoid government clawbacks on your eventual pension benefits. Action item 3 requires setting hard vocal boundaries. You have to sit down with your adult children and your aging parents to outline exactly what you can and cannot afford in terms of financial support before it completely drains your runway. Action item 4 is taking your numbers to a fee-only financial planner. You need an independent professional whose only job is to build you a clear mathematical roadmap, not a standard bank advisor whose real job is to sell you high-fee mutual funds. The system pulled a bait and switch on your retirement. That is a fact. But by aggressively using the tax mechanisms available to you and putting a firm cap on family subsidies, you can still bridge the gap and reach the finish line. If you have a friend or family member quietly carrying this exact same stress, send this video their way. And drop down in the comments, what is the biggest specific financial hurdle you are facing as you look toward retirement? Let's talk about it.